as the old adage says, it's not over until it's over, or it's not over until the fat lady sings. But that's not very PC in 2023. So it's not over until it's over, and there's still plenty of things to play for in this in this current football season. We are back for another episode of One Kick from Glory, and we're going to be talking a lot about the title run, and we're going to talk about the relegation race. I'm joined, as always, with Craig and Matthew and Markus. We're going to start off at the bottom of the table because there is definitely a massive race to survive. There is so much still left to play for. A lot of teams are desperate for survival. And then there's Chelsea, who goodness knows what's going on with them, and they might get dragged into it. But I want to start with you on this one, Markus. What's your kind of view on the race to survive, and who do you think's in prime position to stay up this season?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Look, I think, when I look at it, I think Southampton are pretty much as good as gone. And then I think one or two of three other teams are probably likely to go down, and that's either Forest, Leeds, or Everton. And, Everton have this habit of escaping the drop. So, they would probably still just about be my favourites to stay up out of them teams because, the thing about Forest is Forest could go and get a really good, 2-1 win, 1 week in an unexpected game and then lose at home the next week. And it's just they're so inconsistent that it makes it really hard to know with Forest. So, I think at this particular stage, and Leeds this week have apparently decided to go back 10 years in, considering to bring in Sam Allardyce. So, I don't think that move makes much sense in 2023. Maybe in, 2003, it wouldn't have been a bad idea. But there you go. So, as much as a mess as Everton Football Club are in, I think they'll probably stay up. And even as a Liverpool fan, I would still like to see them stay up too.
Really?
Yeah, 6 points a season.
Knew it.
Well, I can't argue with that. I mean, looking at the rest of the table, from 20th place, we've got Southampton still, and we've got Everton in 19th, Forest in 18th, as you said, and Leeds, Leicester, and West Ham and Wolves just above them. I think Bournemouth have done a great job in kind of pushing themselves out of that bottom three. For you, Matthew, how do you look at the chances of the rest of the teams that are down there and their prospects of survival?
I think I agree with Markus. Southampton are good as gone. It's just like waiting for them to pull that cord. Because it's weird though, because they'll get the odd result here where it's like it will help them stay up just a little bit. I mean, they've done the double over us. They did the 3-3 with you. I mean, they'll pull up a result from somewhere, and then you'll get a Crystal Palace where they're just absolutely dreadful. And games like that haven't really helped. It's not enough to beat the top teams. You've got to beat everyone around you, so they're gone. I mean, above them is is it Leicester above them? Or no, Everton above them, isn't it?
Above who?
Southampton.
Yeah, Everton, then Nottingham Forest.
I think, I hate to say this because I want them to stay. I really don't want them to stay, but I can see Leeds getting dragged in. I think they've made the change a little too late. They're conceding goals for fun. It's 6, it's 4, it's 5. I watched them against the highlights against Bournemouth, and it's like one of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, it's one thing to have chaos when you go ahead and try and score, but they're just so devoid of any kind of confidence. Their defenders are just not in the right place. They're not giving the keeper confidence. He's still very young. He's a good shot stopper, but he's just very flappy and unpredictable sometimes. Melier, they need some kind of bolstering in their back line. Mind you, they've had players picked off over the years with the likes of Calvin Phillips. Losing him has proven to be way more drastic. No matter where you play them, home or away, it just doesn't seem to help. With Forest, it's different because they can always rely on that home form. But, 1 minute they're putting on a good performance against Liverpool, the next minute they're beating Brighton. They might do just enough to stay. So, I don't know. I think Everton at the moment, the Dyche experiment just hasn't really worked. But I look at it as the same sort of thing where the style of football that he has is the same style of football that got Burnley relegated in the first place. It's just leaving behind that kind of style of, hoof up football. I mean, if you look at Burnley now, getting promoted back to the Premier League, they're a whole different team. And I just think that, I don't know, with Everton, with the chopping and changing, since Ancelotti just hasn't really helped to have a focus of the club, and just injuries all over the place, players not pulling their weight. I can see Everton going down along with Leeds and Southampton. I really can.
All right. And as for you, Craig, what's your kind of outlook on the race to survive? Obviously, really, like if we're going based on points and not based on emotion, you'd probably argue that it's 6, maybe 7 teams that are at risk, with Wolves being the 7th team in that number. If you wanted to go off humour, you could extend it up with 2 more places and also include Chelsea as to make it 8 teams. But for you, Craig, who are you expecting to survive, and what's your kind of outlook for the relegation race?
I really thought, as Marcus and Matthew have said, I really thought Everton will. They've got their history since the 90s. They always seem to be in a relegation battle, and they always seem to get out of it somehow. I don't know how they do it, but they get out of it. The last 2 seasons, Leeds have been very fortunate. They got out of the last. I think they beat Brentford on the last day of the season last year to get out of the stay up last season. But they don't have no Rafinha anymore. They don't have Calvin Phillips anymore. So I don't know who's going to be their saviour to save them this time. And I think they're appointing Sam Allardyce is a bit too late now, a little too late. They should have appointed him when they sacked Jesse Marsh if they're going to make him stay up, because it'd be a miracle if they stay up. I like Leeds, they're a good club, good history, but it'll be a miracle if they stay up. I think Southampton are gone. I feel maybe Nottingham Forest, maybe they could stay up, maybe. They might have a chance. They got some good players. If they can stop conceding sloppy goals, like some of the goals they conceded last week or so against Brentford were very schoolboyish. They could have been prevented. The free kick, Coyote jumped out the way, and then Tony had a free range at goal. The winner, he didn't close his man down, made him cut onto his left foot, Dre De Silva, and he scored. So I feel that if Forest want to stay up, they have to start conceding sloppy goals and be focused. They've got a good goalkeeper from Keylor Navas. He's got experience winning Champions League and all that stuff. So hopefully, maybe they could stay up. But I really do feel for them if they continue not winning matches. It could be too little, too late.
Yeah, I think the reality is that with all these teams at the bottom, like the key factor is going to be defensive play. Obviously, having a reliable goal scorer is important, and we've seen for Leeds recently with Patrick Bamford, he is just off form, and it's like shocking to see how bad he's been. But I want to flip this to you, Marcus, as like a follow-up question to that. So obviously, looking at all these teams and the teams that you're expecting to go down, unfortunately, what players would you? I don't want to say what players would you take at Liverpool, because I think that's a bit of a tough one. But what players would you see leaving those relegated teams, and who could make it into the top 6?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think James Ward-Prowse is a good player. Will he leave Southampton? I don't know. Is he good enough to play top 8? Maybe. Yeah, probably. Squad player for the top 8. I think he could be good enough. Look, a player I really like who I think has been good this season is Brendan Johnson at Forest. I think he's scored quite a lot of goals. He's looked quite good and has been one of Forest's kind of bright sparks this season. Again, I don't think he's good enough necessarily for a move right to the top right away, but I think he's the type of player that, if you look and say, would he be a good enough squad player at Newcastle next year? Champions League football, playing more games, not wanting to kind of overdo it on, big budgets when a team gets relegated. Yeah, I think he'd be a good enough, kind of Anthony Gordon, type player, like that level. I think, when you start to look at the likes of West Ham and the likes of Wolves and the likes of Chelsea, they obviously have good players. So I think West Ham, Wolves, I would probably leave them alone, and I don't think they'll get relegated anyway, but they probably each have 5 or 6 players that are good enough for the Premier League. Likes of Nunes has been linked to bigger clubs already at Wolves, and Neves is obviously a very talented midfielder. Ben Rama's pretty good at West Ham. Bowen's pretty good at West Ham. I think there are players there that are good enough. But yeah, that would probably be my thoughts in the kind of immediacy of the teams that I think are going to go down.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, especially for those players, who could get snapped up by anyone really. And I guess really the the onus is going to be on the teams to kind of try and avoid that drop off and see if they can retain as many as possible. I think Burnley have benefited from bringing in a very, very highly rated manager, having a very, very good system, but most importantly of all, maintaining the core. You know, they had enough core players that know what Burnley is all about, and then he could build on it and bring in some very exciting players. And I think it's really funny. It's like, you know, with Burnley, when you think of Burnley, you have a set image of how their team looks, of how their team plays, and Company has definitely brought in some spice there. You know, he's brought out the Maggie, Oxo Q, you know,
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. He's definitely added some spice to how they play and what they do. So that's been quite interesting to sort of see. But look, just thinking about, you know, on that note of a manager and the transformative nature of them, we've seen this season has been one of the most tumultuous seasons for managerial appointments. I mean, some clubs have gotten it right, and other clubs, there's nothing
Chelsea.
to be said really. You just point and laugh really, but you just have to laugh.
He didn't exactly say Chelsea. We're insinuating it, obviously.
Like Chelsea, but just on that note, I think I want to just highlight 3 managers in particular. One that's doing an incredible job, and we'll get onto Lampard later. He's the separate conversation point. And 2 that I think it's one we'll see, and the other one it just hasn't worked. And I want to start off with the one that just hasn't worked so far, and that's Sean Dyche. And I want to head over to you, Craig. What's your perception on Sean Dyche at Everton, and why do you think it hasn't quite worked out in the way that we would have expected, considering his reputation and what he likes to do as a manager?
He hasn't got the right players. Calvert-Lewin is the perfect player for his system. Cross the ball in, headers, hold up the ball. I thought that he's got Burnley players in his team like Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil, but he as Markus said, this is not 2003 anymore. Like old school football's kind of dead out now. They can't do the long ball system. Now it's all about tactical football, quick, fast, transitional play. All this 1960 football don't work anymore. I'm sorry. It doesn't work anymore. Honestly, it doesn't work.
To be fair,
Some teams it will work.
Hold on. Pep Guardiola did use it against us to great effect. That's what I have to say. But continue.
Yeah, but then he could have. Yeah, but then if you want to go that far, then it doesn't work. Elite managers can do it, but not Sean Dyche.
Hey.
Sean Dyche, he got relegated Burnley last season, and since he's gone, they've done better without him. Company transformed the club. He's changed the ethos. He's changed everything about the way they play. Obviously, he still has, as you said, he had the core players in the team, but some of them might not be there next season for the Premier League. He might try to do something different. So, yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting. It hasn't quite worked out. And you'd hope that he'd be able to bring it together. I want to save the next point in a second for you, Matt. But for you, Mark, what would you say has been like one of the biggest sort of disappointments with Everton? I know it's good news for you that they're struggling. It's nice to laugh at. But like you said, that's 6 points a season potentially at jeopardy here. They need to sort it out and fast. I mean, we all have vested interest in Everton having a good end to the season. But for you, what would you say has been the reasoning behind Sean Dyche's kind of inconsistent start there?
Look, I think when the best that one of the greatest managers of our generation could do was finish 8th with you as a football club, after bringing in one of the most expensive, prestigious attacking midfielders in the history of, the last 20 years to play at Everton. The best Everton could have done at that point was pack up their football club and decide they was going to fold, because, it's pretty much game over.
Mom. Right. Stop. I'm choking.
We're kind of done at that point. Where Carlo Ancelotti is coming out with statements in the press saying, look, I'm a football manager, not a magician. It's game over. And
Lord.
Everybody looks at Ancelotti and they're like, yeah, the man's finished. No. The man's going to go and win the Champions League in 1 year. He's not finished. Everton, however, they should be finished. So I think this is the problem with Everton Football Club is, with all due respect, they spend most of their life gaining satisfaction out of Liverpool's failures. Liverpool's failures in which are genuinely more often than not much bigger successes than Everton are having. If Everton finished fifth this year, they'd be delighted. So
Damn.
I think when you look at it in that way, the everything around the club is kind of like the little brother mentality that he's never going to get out of the shadow of his big brother, and his big brother's just better than him in every single way, and there's nothing he can do about it. And sadly, he's trying to follow in his footsteps of his big brother by doing the same job and having the same career and taking the same path, but he's just really, really bad at it compared to his big brother. There's no winning mentality at Everton. And when they've brought in proven winners, it has not, the mentality has not been able to stick. It's not been able to change things. And I think that's a sign of a really, really suffering football club. I think they need lots of changes, throughout the club. They need to get rid of the entire board. They need to get rid of, probably 20 of their 25 players in their starting squad, and they really need to think about how they want to approach it. They need to, because again, they had Ancelotti, then they went to Benitez. How different, both very good managers, but both very different in their styles, their approaches, their formations, the way they played over the years. And then Lampard, we're going to get onto him. But hiring Frank Lampard is basically admitting defeat as it is. How he kept them up is beyond me, to be honest. And then Dyche, Lampard, Benitez, and Ancelotti as their last four managers. Are you trying to tell me that makes any sense in any way, shape, or form? Anyone at this football club sat there going, "Yeah, we've got a plan here. We know what we're doing. We're moving in the right direction." They really need to get it together, get a clear philosophy, and start building towards a clear philosophy. But even their signings, dreadful. And even their good signings, 50 million on Richarlison. It worked out. He's a bit of a legend at Everton because, nothing to do with football, but because, he paid for a bus to, send Liverpool supporters to the Champions League or whatever it is. They all love that one because, that's the type of success you get when you can't think about any success on the pitch. So there's my Everton rant over. But the club's a bit of a mess, and they really need to sort it out.
Honestly, I thought. Okay, I have a follow-up question for you then. Everton, Tottenham, or Chelsea? Who's in a bigger mess out of those three?
I think Chelsea are in the biggest mess at the moment because the expectations of Chelsea are so through the roof. I don't think Everton can expect much more than, to potentially scrap for a top 10 finish. Like I said, Ancelotti finished 8th with them. So, the expectations are not as high. Tottenham, they are a bit of a bottle job. There's no denying it. But they also reached a Champions League final, a few years ago, when Arsenal fans were threatening to blow up Spain. But then, Chelsea, the immediacy of their failures are worrying, and the fact that Todd Boehly is at the helm of this football club is probably the biggest concern I would have as a Chelsea fan, because he really doesn't have a clue. And they've spent so much money, and I can't wrap my head around the idea of thinking, do you know what, we're struggling here. I'm gonna sack my good man Audi TC. And do you know what? Actually, the best way forward here is to hire a guy that almost got Everton relegated. That's the plan. Squad harmony, right? He used to be one of us. He almost got us relegated. We sacked him. Then we won the Champions League 6 months later. And then, we're going to sack the guy that won the Champions League 6 months later. And guess who we're going to hire back? it's just a comedy club. Like, you know, it really is. So yeah, I think Chelsea have the biggest problems at the moment, and how they're going to turn them around, I'll leave for Matthew to figure out.
You know what? We're gonna really get into Chelsea a bit later on. But what I have to say, and I love that you brought it up. Lampard might actually be the first manager in Premier League history to relegate two clubs, if results go our way. Now, I don't think it's possible Chelsea to get relegated this season. I think it's mathematically difficult. But if Liverpool have a chance of top four, then Chelsea have a chance of relegation. So I'm going to say it's possible. It's a stretch, and it will require a lot of favour around them, but it's possible. But before we get into that discussion, and that's really going to sting a bit for you, Matt, but I wanted to focus on the second of the three managers I wanted to highlight at the bottom. And this is a manager who I think has definitely gone under the radar this season in terms of the work that he's doing. And I think that since he's come in, of all the newly appointed managers, he is a testament to the benefit of sacking someone and bringing someone in and being patient with them through the rough patches. And that's Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth. How impressed are you with what he has been doing down at the South Coast?
Well, Bournemouth were like doomed at one point. I think they were like 19th, like not a few months ago. But I think Gary O'Neill's come in. What people don't realise about Gary O'Neill is that he was a bit of a traveller. He travelled around many, many clubs for many, many years. He was Portsmouth and he was at like QPR or something. And so he's gained experience of playing at clubs at that kind of level, but needs to help a bit of survival. But it's also credit to, I don't think he appointed him, but he started playing him, was the new goalkeeper that they have as well, ahead of their old goalkeeper, I can't remember who he was, who's been stable at like just giving them confidence at the back. A direct comparison between their keeper now against the keeper they have for Leeds couldn't be more obvious watching that game. Sorry, Leeds, I'm sorry. He's not good. He's not good. I know he's young, he's also not good. Anyway, you can tell I'm a bit salty right now because I'm going to get into it anyway. Don't worry, I'm saving the best. But yeah, just like the confidence he gives his defenders ahead of him just proves so much how they're climbing up to the point that now they're behind us level on points. And you know what? Solanke's also scoring as well, who flopped at Liverpool, he flopped at Chelsea. He's found his happy place at Bournemouth. You know, he's scoring, the other players are scoring, and just confident what it's like for other teams to score. But they're radiating a little bit more confidence and belief that survival is now very much possible. I think they're more or less, well, if I say Chelsea are safe, I think they're safe too, depending on Saturday's result. I don't know. But no, he's done. I thought you'd go with someone else, but considering the position that they were in, and another ex-player that's kind of like, it's the next player, how well is he going to do? No, I didn't really think of him too much, but he has done a fantastic job. So, you know, credit where credit is due, and we'll see with the vitality on Saturday.
No, we will. I mean, I think you're the only one that says Chelsea's safe. I think the rest of us, Markus probably thinks it's a bit of a stretch to say they're going down. I still think you just be looking down, mate. Don't look up anymore. Start looking.
I'm doing nothing but
start looking down that table.
And I'm afraid of heights.
The thing about Chelsea's position of safety is I only think they're safe because of the points they've already got. I don't picture Lampard picking up a point between now and the end of the season. So it's going to be nothing to do with him and everything to do with the fact that they'd already picked up enough points up until this particular point. Because I could easily see Chelsea not winning a game between now and the season end.
He's telling me that our best manager this season is still Thomas Tuchel.
100%.
Yep.
100%. Mighty TT does it again.
And you know what? Yeah. On that note, we are coming to Chelsea. We've got another stop to go to before then. But I wanted to speak about the third manager of my three manager expose. And I say it's the unknown quantity because we don't know how it's going to go. But this man has now got 4 games to make £3 million. Which, if you told me in 4 weeks, you got to do a job, 4 weeks worth of work, and you can get 3 million, I'm never going to turn that down. I'm all over it. Am I qualified? Who cares? What's the job? What do I need to do? You need to just win 4 matches. All right, okay. Park the Bus FC. Big Sam's back. Massive news out today. Really interesting to see how it goes. For you, Craig, first of all, how did you feel about the news, considering why he hasn't had a job since the England manager job where he royally messed up and got fired, understandably so. But how do you think that appointment is going to work out for Leeds?
Allardyce, he done it at Bolton. He did it at Sunderland. He flopped at Newcastle.
Kept them up though.
Did he flop at Newcastle?
It's West Brom is where he failed. West Brom where he got relegated. I can't forget West Brom because he had Maitland-Niles in midfield and he was in midfield, but midfield was happening around him. Anyway,
he's the type of manager that he can put his arm around the players and give them that confidence. But like a Roy Hodgson did that. Everyone thought, why is Roy Hodgson back in football? But Allardyce, I know he's been in the game for a long time. He's been doing like punditry work and whatever, but I'm sure he'll try and muster a way how to beat Guardiola on Saturday. We're praying and hoping he'll find a way how to. He said in the paper today that he's better than Arteta, he's better than this manager, he's better than that manager. I was just laughing when I read the article. Yeah, sorry. When I read the article, I was laughing my head off like, this guy. Are you being serious?
Hold on, like we've all heard about players being the next Henry, David Ngo, Jimmy Brion, Loic Remy. Where are they now? It don't mean nothing. There's just words. He can call himself the best anything, but at the end of the day, his CV and this Leeds posted a lovely picture of his his records as a manager, and without even doing proper maths, it was like 500 and something odd games managed, 100 and something odd wins, and I thought, hold on a minute, there's a massive gap there in numbers. That doesn't read really well. It's not doing what they think it's doing.
Well, I think the only big club he managed as a manager was Newcastle and the England job. It was the only two teams that were big clubs. All the other clubs were like relegation threatened clubs like Bolton.
West Ham. He got promoted.
West Ham as well. So 3 teams: West Ham, England, and Newcastle. Other teams like Sunderland and they're like lower league teams. No disrespect to them, but they were like the bottom half of the table team. So maybe his record that's the reason why his record is so low, or maybe it's not good enough.
He stopped Everton. He stopped, I think, he stopped Everton. So yeah.
Well, good luck to Sam Allardyce. If he does it, that 3 million will be very nice for him. That's his retirement fund. So his pension fund. So maybe if he does a good job, hopefully Leeds can stay up.
But I think though, on that note, does it even make sense to appoint him? When you look, it's 4 games, right? What you're looking for is 2 wins, 2 draws, right? Starting on Saturday, no pressure. But you're looking for 2 wins, 2 draws, or three draws, 1 win. But you just can't lose. Like you can probably afford to lose 1 game, and even then, because they're level on points with Forest, and it's just goal difference that's keeping them up. So realistically, I think they need 6 points to be fine.
Well, I feel like maybe the reason they if they wanted to appoint some others, they should have appointed him when they sacked Jesse Marsh. They'd give them 12, 15, 11, 15 games or 16 games to try and implement his style of play and whatever, the way he wants the team to play. 4 games is like a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. If you knew Javi Gracia was not the manager for you, or not the manager that's going to stay, because he was at Watford, he did well in his first season at Watford, then he got sacked the second season. He got sacked.
Yeah.
So he's not really be a manager that's gonna get you out of relegation battles. So I was a bit surprised when they appointed him as a manager, to be fair. And him struggling, I knew he was gonna struggle. I knew it.
Well, I want to throw this to you, Mark, and then we're going to move on to your lovely team, Liverpool. But looking at the picture, because Leeds have also sacked their director of football, Victor Orto, as well. He left because the signings they've made has just not really been up to par, what they needed and what they've got. But when you look at the situation, obviously going from Bielsa to Jesse Marsh, that's already a bit of a strange decision. And then going from Marsh to Gracia, and then now going from Gracia to Allardyce. Do you not think they would have been better off just sticking with Marsh and just riding out? Because I remember the week they fired him, the next few fixtures were all winnable. And of course, Gracia went on to win them. So then by that token, and it's kind of similar with Palace and Vieira, but I think Palace have made the right call because they needed that change and it's well and truly benefited them. They're safe and they're going to be fine. But do you think that Leeds should have probably held on with Marsh for a couple more games and then bring in a manager that fits what the players they've got rather than just bringing in Gracia who doesn't really fit them?
Yeah, I think the problem is that, football's always great with hindsight, right? And we say that it's, Palace made the right call because Hodgson's came in and, kept them up comfortably and they've picked up a handful of good results. But there's nothing to say that Vieira wouldn't have been able to turn it around and they still stay up as well. Whilst they were in free fall and it was looking quite ominous, like, I think it was also very doable considering the nature of this season that he could have got enough points to keep them up, and they moved forward with him next season. I think Leeds would be in no better of a position, or necessarily no worse of a position if they had Jesse Marsh now. So it's almost like they've just gone through the hoo-ha of giving away, however much they've given away in compensation for sacking these managers that they've put on contracts, over a 4-month period. Again, Chelsea really know a lot about that as well, So, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's neither here nor there. They probably could have kept Jesse March. The problem always with these clubs is, these clubs in this position, with Bielsa, who kept Leeds in the Premier League relatively comfortably, and they had an idea and a philosophy. Is it's all well and good doing it for a little while, but look at Southampton. They had Pochettino, they had Koeman, they had good philosophies, they had Hasenhuttl, who even did okay for his first little spell there, and look where they are now. What did they do? They hired a championship manager and have got championship results. And I think at the end of the day, like, this is the challenge of being, outside of the top 8 in the Premier League. You're not susceptible. Like, no one is. West Ham are probably the biggest club outside the top 8, and even they have been dragged into it. But look, they've chose to ride it out with Moyes, and I almost think there's some wisdom in that. They'll probably stay up, I think. But, at the end of the day, like, I think that does make the most sense to me. You look and you say, at the beginning of a season, we have this guy here for a reason. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is the success that we want to have. Okay, it's not worked out brilliantly, but, like, he still fits what we're trying to do. Whereas you can't really speak for a club like Leeds, who have, basically just, they were linked with Pochettino. And when their last manager left, and you're thinking, like, this is a club that's trying to push the barriers even higher, and have ended up hiring championship fodder, and probably will be championship because of it.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. Like I said in the previous podcast, Leeds, you need to turn it around. I need a Yorkshire club in the Premier League until my beloved Bradford make it, if they ever make it. And when they do, you lot can just drop back down again.
We've already got one. We've already got Yorkshire club coming up.
Yeah.
Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? Fair enough. I tried. But yeah, let's move on down the country. Let's head to Liverpool, Leeds to Liverpool. And it's been an interesting turn of events at Anfield. I feel like Jurgen is slowly starting to piece together the new system for 2023-2024. I'm quite intrigued because obviously this season's done. Like I said, there's an outside chance you're making top 4, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. For you, Mark, and I want to throw 2 questions at you in this. Firstly, how impressed have you been, or how do you feel about what's happening at the moment with Liverpool? And secondly, I want to talk about Trent, but let's start about your general thoughts on Liverpool and that wonderful game against the Spuds the other day. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in inverted quotes.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's 7 games without losing now, and 4 wins in a row, and it's looking good. The football is attractive again. It's interesting. I like that we've made some changes. Obviously, that's kind of captured in the conversation that we'll have with the next question. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing. I think we still look susceptible defensively, and that's inevitable. At the moment, it does seem defensively we're a little all over the place and a bit shaky at times, but don't rely on us for a clean sheet, but we'll give you a good game and we'll score a few goals. And we have been getting out of games with wins, and you look at the fixtures between now and the end of the season, and you think all very winnable games. Which is partly the problem for Liverpool with the games they've lost this season, is that you look at them and you think they should have been very winnable games. Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Leeds at home, Brighton, games you'd expect Liverpool to be winning. But yeah, all in all, I think things look like they're turning and heading in the right direction for next season. Is it a little too late? Yeah, probably. In terms of the top four, and that all important Champions League spot, I think it might be gone. I did a little of evaluating of the games left, and I think Newcastle need 5 points in their last 5 games, and Man United need 9 points in their last 6 games, and that would be with Liverpool winning every game between now and the end of the season. So when you look at it that way, it does feel like it might be a little bit too much to ask. Newcastle, I wouldn't expect to. They've got Arsenal, and there would have been a time where Chelsea away would have been a hard game, but other than that, Leicester, Brighton, Leeds. I think Newcastle will comfortably pick up 5 points between now and the end of the season. Sorry, Matthew, I've been really hard on Chelsea tonight. It is what it is. And United, they have Brighton away, West Ham away, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Fulham at home. You'd think they'd pick up 9 points in them 6 games, to be honest. So yeah, I think top four feels a bit late, but all in all, positive signs, and hopefully we can make some new signings for next season.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive side. And just speaking on that new signings note, we had the news that broke earlier today that from Fabrizio Romano, and he's usually quite accurate about these things. Instead of when he has vested interest and deliberately leaks bad news. But he's claiming that Jude Bellingham is all but wrapped up and bow tied and heading off to Real Madrid. I know you had your sort of hopes that deal was going to happen. And I know you did say relatively recently that you kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen anymore and that he was not going to make it to Liverpool. So it's not too much of a shock for you. But taking him out of the equation now and looking at the resurgence and this evolution in the role of Trent Alexander-Arnold, how do you see Liverpool's midfield shaping up for next season now?
Yeah, look, I think Trent gets a lot of stick from rival fans, for his defensive, qualities, and that's fair enough. We'll have that Trent versus Reece James conversation another day. But I think what's clear, is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is a terrific central midfielder. He's really good on the ball. He seems very composed. He's also got way more assists than the entire Chelsea team in his last 6 games.
Oh my God.
And
Hey.
and yeah,
Oh
I have
my
an axe to
God.
grind. I have an axe to grind tonight. I really do.
You had your Weetabix this morning, man.
But yeah, to be honest, he looks like a player who's had the pressure taken off him because he no longer has to deal with, the attacking wingers isolating him and targeting him in a position where he's uncomfortable. And he gets the ball and he dictates the play. And he reminds me a lot of Javi Alonso. Like, he sits deep and he pings the ball around and he takes the ball off the defense. And yeah, he seems incredibly confident. Like I say, 6 assists in the last 5 league games, and yeah, I think he saves Liverpool a handful of money in the summer when it comes down to midfielders. I think, like you said, Bellingham, it became more and more clear wasn't going to happen, and that Liverpool looked at the budget and said, we need 3 new midfielders, not just one. And I think Jude Bellingham, therefore, to Madrid is the best move for all of us involved because nobody wants to see him at Man City. So with that, I think Trent and 2 others, and Trent could operate as the deep line midfielder. We'll need to buy a right back. And in all honesty, I don't care if they can cross the ball. I don't care if they go past the halfway line. I personally just like them to be able to defend. Like, that'd be fantastic. And then that way, our success can come from the center of the park. And we can look to make a difference there. So for me, I still like the idea of Mason Mount if Chelsea don't want to sign a new deal with him. I like the idea of Barella from Inter, and because he's that box to box that is maybe a cheaper version of Bellingham. We could probably get him for 50 million and would do what Bellingham does. He's not as good as Bellingham, but he still fits that bill of a similar type of player. And yeah, I think outside of that, like a free transfer to bolster the midfield, whether it be Kovacic or I'd take Modric, but I doubt it'd happen. But something that's not overly expensive, but that just kind of fills out that midfield, then yeah, I'd be quite happy.
That's a good point. I would say this though, play style wise, looking at Trent Alexander-Arnold right now, he reminds me of near end of career Beckham. So this is like second half of his Madrid stay, going to LA Galaxy, AC Milan, and PSG, because the role he played in those clubs was more central midfield rather than on the wing. Obviously at Madrid there was Figo out there, so he had to play more infield. But the type of things that Trent's doing right now is a lot of what Beckham did in that phase. And Beckham could still get up the wing, but he did play more central. And again, his distribution on the ball was just next level. And that's what I see in Trent, and that's a good place for him to be. But for you, Craig, looking at how things are playing out, obviously, like I said, Liverpool beat Spurs with a lovely last minute winner. Always love it when, I was looking at a video of a Spurs fan cams reacting. They were doing a live stream and I was just like, there's these two guys, bless them. I think you guys should just pack it in. You're not cut out for this. I'm sorry, but every time you lot are celebrating something, it always fails. Every time I see their faces, it's the same. They're doing well. They're winning. Oh, we're ahead. Well done, you're winning. And then, oh no. Like, just pack it in, please. For the love of God, just give it a rest and support another team or something. But for you, Craig, like looking at how that game has panned out. Like Mark said, it's going to be a tough run for Liverpool to make it into the top four because of the other teams around them. But how do you rate their chances in making it?
Top four. I think a couple of weeks ago, I think 2 months ago, I think I backed Liverpool to get top four. I thought after they beat Man United 7-0, I thought that they could challenge and get into the top four, because Klopp has done it before. He did it a couple of seasons ago. I remember the season when Alisson scored the header against West Brom and they secured top four. And I feel like the results have been good recently, but there's some results that might have cost them, like the Wolves game when they lost against Wolves, against Arsenal, when they drew against Arsenal, and we were a better team on that day. Sorry, Marcus. Who else did we? And they drew a couple of games where they should have won. And I think if you look at the start of the season, if they some of the draws, they turn some of the defeats into wins, maybe they would have got top four, but I don't think they're going to get top four now. I think Newcastle stronger, they're doing very well. Man United are doing well because they have to do well to get Champions League for next season. So I think maybe Liverpool will finish fifth. I feel they'll finish fifth or sixth.
Well, I think it's interesting because you look at the next couple of games. Man United have got Brighton coming up on Thursday as of recording, so it might be today when you're listening to this, later on today. And then they've got West Ham on the weekend, and then Liverpool, have got Fulham right now, and they have Brentford at the weekend. That's a 6 point. It's a 6 point gap right now. You never know in those two games. West Ham they've got a lot. They're still not safe. They would want to secure that before the Europa Conference League semis and stuff. As for anything can happen. Brentford.
But I did back Liverpool to get top four. So I think if they get top four, it'll be good for them. They can rebuild. They'll make it better for them to get recruitment. Like they can Champions League football, and they could get more bonuses and all that for Champions League revenue. They can get they might not have to go for the player for Inter Milan. They could get better players than him if they want to. So
that's true.
All depends if they get Champions League football. And Liverpool's a big club anyway, so they can still attract. And they got an elite manager who's won big trophies, so they can still attract top players at the club.
All right, let's talk about Arsenal Man City first, and then we will talk about Arsenal Chelsea, because anyway, whole lot of mess going on. You're just a hot mess right now. You are literally like the supermodel who fired all of her staff, literally fired her whole makeup crew, hair, makeup, her dress, her designer, everything, fired them all, ran into Target and just picked out a bunch of stuff and thought, I can do it all myself. Went to the red carpet, didn't check the weather before going to the red carpet. It started raining, no umbrella, and just looked an absolute mess. A hot mess. Still on the front page of magazines because of who she is, but just a hot mess. And everyone would, it's not saying it's a person, just this is an example scenario. And everyone is just embarrassed to point out the obvious that they are a mess. But hey, you're a hot mess. But before we talk about that hot mess, I wanted us to kind of review the Arsenal-Man City game in light of, yesterday's fixture against Chelsea, which was a good little bounce back from Arsenal. And for you, Craig, what were your thoughts about the Man City game in general?
Yeah, we were scared. We looked scared all over the pitch. We looked nervous. We didn't look confident. I know players were talking up before the game, said we're going to do well against City. They didn't have no pride. They didn't have nothing. They just looked like little lost boys on the pitch. So, like, Saka looked lost. Jesus looked lost. Shevchenko looked lost. Holden looked lost. The whole team just looked lost. And I felt that against one of your title rivals for the title, even though it's our first time battling the title in a long time, you would have thought they'd given more. Even I would have put more fight on that pitch than them when they did it that day. Like, it was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. And I felt that, like, it was just embarrassing. It's just upsetting to watch because we've done so well all season, as to go to the home of the champions and not even put up a fight. And then the next game after that, Fulham played Man City and Fulham put more of a fight against Man City than we did against them. It's very embarrassing.
Yeah, it was a disappointing performance, disappointing game. I thought the players would have... I think Arteta should have switched it. And we saw the benefit of that against Chelsea by bringing in Kivior, bringing in Jorginho, bringing in Trossard, and the difference those three players made to the team. I don't think Kivior was like a world beater yesterday, but I just think having him in the 11 meant that we could just play how we like to play because the boy's not slow.
He's got pace.
He's quick. He can shift. He can move a bit. Rob Holding, bless him. It's like he's a dumper truck. He's not enough speed in them legs. He tries. He's got a good heart, good lad, but he just hasn't quite got it. And Kivior allows us to play our normal game. So I think that was a mistake on Arteta's point, not trying something different without Saliba. I think that was just a sign of his resoluteness and his beliefs, which he needs to get more flexible. I don't want to call him arrogant and stubborn. I just think he needs to become a bit more flexible in what he wants to do. So that was annoying. Gabriel Jesus really let me down. For you, Matthew, when you look at his performance as a striker, because I thought he was going to go to Man City and really take the game to them and show them what they were missing. Like, you want to see that kind of fight. And I think he played within himself. Had a couple of nice dribbles here and there, but he didn't look like he was trying to take the game to cover a neck. What do you think of his performance in general?
Every John Cena is always going to be a Brock Lesnar. I think this is his first return back to the Etihad since leaving. It was always going to be real tough to come back to your former employers in the form that they're in the form that your club is in. And I think he just kind of disappeared into himself just for that one moment. And I think for not just him, but for the whole team, the occasion took over about what was going on, what was possible, because you're coming in off like some undesirable results. The draw of Southampton, the draw of West Ham, the draw of Liverpool. They're not losses, but when you're in a title race and when your rivals are on scintillating form, literally breathing down your neck, the last thing you need is to turn up there and not really perform. And it happened from very early on in the game, and they got their first goal and they never really looked back. It's like it was almost as if a reminder, whereas as good as you are doing right now, what you lack in this key part of the season is experience. Like, not disrespecting your players, but they haven't experienced a feeling like this at this time of the table, just this part of the table at this time of the season for, I think, ever. They're normally used to being like the European mark, or being fighting to get into the European mark. So this is now where I said the last time is running your race is so important, because you're playing against a team and a manager and a club that are well aware of where they are. They love this kind of thing. If anything, they like being in where they are because it gives them something to aim for when they come and literally pip you at the very last second. If they did it to Liverpool, will they do it to you guys? Only time will tell. I said it before. I think this title race is far from over. This is going to the wire with 2 games or even 1 game to go. But yeah, I think on the day he shrunk into himself and just, I think the occasion has kind of got the better of him. Next time round, depending on what happens at the end of the season, he might go there with a little bit more confidence. But no, the game very much took him over that one time, very much.
Yeah, it was definitely a game that I look back on and I'm a bit annoyed by. But then, as is often the case in life, you have one minor moment of setback and disappointment and sadness. And then Charity FC opens her loving arms and says, "Go on, mate. My house is wide open. Take what you need. Help yourself. Have a cup of tea. Make yourself dinner. And head on home and have fun." I want to start with you on this one, Marcus, and I'm going to come over to you, Matthew, about what was absolutely it was a great fight back and a bounce back from Arsenal, but what was literally endemic of what has just been the Todd Boehly circus gone absolutely mad. And the season's not over yet. And like I said, there's still a chance that they might be playing with Preston North End, or not Middlesbrough, because they're probably going to come up, but Preston North End next season might be heading to the bridge. But for you, Mark, what when you looked at that game from Arsenal, how do you review it in light of the season, and does it give a glimmer of hope to the possibility of things, of the shiny trophy making it back to the M's come end of the year?
Look, if you weren't playing Frank Lampard Chelsea, then maybe it would be a positive result, but pretty much everyone's gone and beaten Chelsea home and away this year. So we'll continue on with my hatred for Chelsea tonight and say that I wasn't overly blown away. But, you need the points, and that's the most important thing at this stage in the season. I agree with Matthew. I think Man City have the experience, and that experience will probably take them across the line. But at the same time, I have been saying that for months. So, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd keep hope. I'd keep enjoying it. I'd keep, believing that you can win the title every moment, because what other option do you have? But, I think Man City have dealt some big blows, and shown their consistency and their ability to perform, and really showed up when it mattered in the game against you guys. And for me, I think that was enough to suggest that I think Man City will win the title. But yeah, I think you got to keep getting the results and keep picking up the points and keep the pressure on. And you're doing that as it currently stands. You needed to get that 3 points against Chelsea to turn things around and move yourselves in the right direction. And you've done that, so that's important.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good point to make. And I think that's been very key, that in terms of what we've been doing. We just got to keep moving, keep pushing on. But, it's never a fun podcast about pointing at the ills, wills and spills at Stamford Bridge. But before we get into that, Craig, Martin Odegaard, I have been very critical of our captain at times this season, because I feel like he does like to disappear in some of the big games. I know he had a good Southampton game. He had a good ending and an okay start. In the middle, I thought he was a bit anonymous. He was doing some good things, but for a player of his quality, I expect and I demand more, because he can do more. But for you, Craig, how impressed are you with his 2 goals against Chelsea last night, especially the first one?
He led like a true captain, a winner. The goal hit the crossbar top right, and then when I thought yesterday the pressure was off. I thought the pressure was off Arsenal yesterday, because in their minds they think, oh, maybe we're not going to win the title now. So when the pressure's off, Arsenal seemed to play well. When the pressure was on, we were struggling. Then 3 games: Liverpool, West Ham, and Southampton. Now the pressure's off us. Now we're the underdogs again. We could go on another run and win all our games, and then you never know what happens. That's Arsenal. Odegaard, he was missing last week. He gave away one of the ball. He gave away 2 of the goals. He gave the ball away in the midfield. He didn't have the. I don't mind a player giving the ball away. I don't mind a player giving the ball away in a match, yeah. But one thing I don't like is that a player just standing there, not even trying to chase it or try to do, even tug the player back, get a yellow card or something. He just stood there and put his hand in his head. I'm thinking, our captain doing that. And you got younger players like Saka, you got players like who was Martinelli, and then just looking at you, you're the leader. You have to show these young players that that's not how you do things. I know he's young himself, but you're the captain of Arsenal Football Club. You know what I mean? You can't be, you know what I mean? So, but he made up for it yesterday. So not long continue that run.
Yeah, I think yesterday he showed us the leadership, the grit, the technical ability, and the skill and talent that you want to lead a team and lead in a game like that. And obviously, I use that as a great contrast to the absolute crap show that is Stamford Bridge right now. I can't. And okay, fair play to Noni Madikele for getting his goal. He did put on Instagram the night before. He put a nice little post up saying that he said he's basically, I've got something coming tomorrow, or watch this space or whatever he said, and he did deliver on that. So fair play to him. Nice little scrappy goal. Madrid came off the bench. It's very tidy. 35 plus £5 million bid. Arsenal in the summer, yeah. Just to test their resolve, and if you accept it, hey, we're in business. Go up to 45 plus 5 max. But how do you explain this year at Chelsea? Because you have really, if we look at the timeline of events, you know, the end of the Roman era was coming to an end. You know, you brought in Lampard initially. You did a good job at Derby. You brought him in to try and, you know, build things up. Had a free hit season, no Champions League, no pressure. He had a transfer ban as well, and he did well integrating the younger players like Mount, Abraham, Tomori. Following season, you shipped off basically 2 of those 3, and then he lost his job. Thomas Tuchel came in and just delivered Champions League again, and then you got the Club World Cup. You're flying high. Then you fast forward to this season. Roman's out because of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. Big money Todd takes over, and from that point on, when I'm hearing stories about Cristiano Ronaldo and all this kind of stuff, and then Thomas is out, brings in Graham, it just was never working, and he stuck with Graham stubbornly. And then, Graham's out. Gets a text from James Corden. Hey, mate, you know what? Yeah, give Frank a chance. Yeah, he's a good lad. Brings in Frank Lampard, and you haven't won a game under Frank Lampard. How do you feel about all these things?
Well, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Thomas Tuchel. You may have potentially saved us from relegation. You're still our best manager this year, and that was back in September when you last managed a game. It doesn't make sense. Like, he's come in and he really has not made a good impression of himself, because when he got those first bunch of players, your Sterlings, your Aubameyangs, and your Koulibalys, Cucurella to some extent, he bought them for him, to then let him go, and then the next guy come in who has no idea, working with a bunch of players that he didn't even necessarily want. He was promised a whole bunch of other players that he still didn't even get, and then quintessentially it gets worse over time. That's why I'm not really having the smoke for the manager so much as it is the guy above, because he's fired a whole bunch of staff and he's taken over this club by himself. Now, if you look before, why you had different players and different people in different positions that run the club and they care, you can talk about like how Roman did things, the quick firing, the instability, and all this kind of thing. But you know what? It worked. And he had a team of people around him necessarily that would probably jump in and say something that might not be a good idea. He never once went into a training room. And I'm hearing things that the one he did go into a training room after Real Madrid, it's not the first time. Now, that's the first red flag after all. Even the manager is poor as Frank, and I love Frank, but as a manager, he ain't doing it, at least at the Premier League level anyway. But to go in and undermine your manager that you picked, just screams of so many bad decisions, of so many red flags. It's like looking at my Sky Sports app. It's like looking at chicken pox, red everywhere. It's like, so the Soviet Union didn't have this much red. And it's a disaster. But what can I say that hasn't been already said already? It's a disaster. It's an absolute shambles. But you have to admit, that's why, really manager-wise, and I said last week, I wouldn't be surprised if we're lucky, be happy getting top 6, because the situation we have is so poor. You brought in all these young players, on these big on contracts and expect the guy that you didn't even prepare for properly to kind of like sort it out. And as a result, those players don't know what they're doing. So it's like they're playing for themselves. You know, when like the João Felix come on, when Mudryk comes on, when Enzo come on, they're playing what they know. So they're playing for themselves, along with some of the older players that probably should be phased out, like his Ziyech's. As Laqueta, sorry to say it again, he's got to go do an Loftus-Cheek who probably doesn't have a place. All the confusion kind of stems from him to the managers to the players, and every single game that comes up is the exact same result. We play for 20 minutes and then we're already on the beach. Half these players are already on the beach. They don't know what they're doing. And what annoyed me, I mean, I could pick so many moments from so many games that annoy me so much, but I can pick on key moments. They happened against Brighton and it happened against you. And what happened? Those long goals. Kepa don't like long goals. We know this. Why has this not been implemented on the pitch or on training to sort this out, to protect him? He's not the strongest keeper when it comes to sort of thing. I could pick a goal from a couple of years ago at Brighton and he can see a long range goal. I could have told you that was the weakest shot. And then, but the second goal, oh my, how did he find himself in there? How did Odegaard worm his way in with all those players in there? How did he, as someone who used to play in goal myself, you pride yourself in your defenders giving you confidence. And I see him just worming his way in, like worming his way into a party where he's not invited and just stealing all the damn food. He took the rice, he took the chicken, he took the curry goat, he took everything. And he come and leave. And then he got three Stooges style defending for Jesus' goal. I mean, what is going on? And I'm seeing Jorginho celebrate. Are still our best central midfielder until Kante came back, celebrating with a team that knows how to play and knows how to win. Todd Boehly. I mean, we can talk again. We all know that Frank's not been the best manager. That's without even saying. And what happened with Potter as well, and getting rid of Tuchel, despite the fact that he prepared to be with Tuchel. Like, he has got, I think the direction can go from him, because at least with like Lampard and Roman, they have that relationship where they understand each other, what's expected, and Roman knows what he's getting from Frank. But Todd Boehly, like you said, coming with the likes of like signing Ronaldo when he's on his way out, it's just like, what are you thinking? Do you know how football works? It's not just simply about signing one player. You got to make that team kind of work. And he has got, it's been just over a year, just a year even. And this is what he's got to show for it. He's got a lot to answer for. And the fact that we're looking closer to relegation than top 4 or even top 6 for a club like Chelsea is unacceptable. Like, teams like Palace, Villa, and now Bournemouth are probably going to pass us, and we're going to be in 13th if results don't go the way we want this weekend in the next few games. Bear in mind, we got Bournemouth, United, City, Newcastle, and Forest. I can probably only see 2 games where we get some kind of result.
Wow. Well, hopefully against Man City, you guys can find something, anything. Since you guys call yourselves the Pride of London, I think we can say the Pride of London is officially Arsenal, red and white. You guys only have that banner in your stadium. You need to take it down. You guys are disgracing London. Take it down, burn it, and rename it the Shame of London.
That's a good one.
Shame. Oh God, man.
But yeah, I think you know, it's quite interesting. And for me, looking at just the general outlook, I think it's concerning the way how the problems are still persisting as the season's gone on. You haven't been able to stabilise it. Frank's come in and hasn't made a difference. For you, Craig, just a last note on Chelsea. Are you a bit surprised that Mauricio Pochettino has not been announced yet? And do you think he should come in now to try and... No.
I think the club's in a big mess. I think you wait till the summer when the transfer window's open and you can tell he can ship out all the players he doesn't want and just start afresh. There's no point in coming in now because the results not going to change him coming in now. He needs a transfer window where he can say to like maybe the Aubameyangs of this world that I'm sorry, mate, but the time to pack your bags again. What do you think, Matthew?
I think he's going to be. We're seeing as he's good with younger players. I think that's where their focus should be. In fact, that's what they should be doing for the last few games. Play the players that have a future here. Play the players that actually want to play, and play the players that you can actually work with. There are probably about 10, 15 players that don't have a future here next season and haven't had a future here since probably January. So. I think on that respect, we've had a lot of players who go far as back as Mourinho times. So it shows you how over time they haven't been replaced properly. So be seeing the ones you signed on those big contracts, and the ones that should start but don't, like your Mudriks and your Maduekis. Like, why not? Why didn't you just start them in the first place if you knew that what we was going to get? Maybe we could have got something. I'm not saying we would have win, but we could have got something. So stop playing. Stop playing guys that just haven't got a clue anymore, and give your focus to the younger guys, because they're the ones that you're going to be relying on. That's where their shoulders are going to lie. Give them some kind of responsibility. You never know, they might start shining, but there's too much confusion. And get them to play as a team. Above all, get them to play as a team, because that's what they don't know. All they know is that they're there for 5+ years. They don't know in what system.
Even Aubameyang lost yesterday on the pitch. He had 8 touches he had yesterday. And he got taken off at half time.
He's having no service. No wonder Brentford, he was rusty, but yeah, no service. What can I say?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. And looking at Aubameyang at the Emirates yesterday, he just looked like a man filled with regret. But you know what? Me no care. I have no sympathy for you. You are the captain. 2 goals off 100, and you decide to be a fool and take liberties and break the manager's trust and break the rules. So it is what it is. At Barcelona, you were in a good place, but you came back. No one told you to come back, but you did. And on that note, it's been fun talking. As it is right now, it's 0-0 in the games playing today. So Liverpool, Fulham still 0-0, Man City, West Ham still 0-0. West Ham are doing really well. City haven't actually made many chances so far, so it's all going according to plan. And we'll see what happens at the weekend. Lots of twists and turns still in this Premier League season. The race for top 4 is not quite over yet, but you might argue Newcastle should be secure there. Liverpool are looking up. Man United should be looking over their shoulder. At the bottom, there's 6 teams that are definitely in the mix. Could be 8. Depending on what happens this weekend, but we shall see. And at the very, very top, between Arsenal and Man City, it's still all to play for. Man City have the advantage of the games in hand and the experience, but hey, points don't lie. And as it stands right now, Arsenal are still top. And we're going to keep that energy until there's no energy left to give. This is us signing out. See you all next time.
Peace.
Safe.